Specialized Epic Evo and Epic share the same frame, but they're totally different bikes to ride. So, which one is the right one for you? So, when I say same frame, there are some differences when we're talking about this S-Works model. This is the top of the line 12M carbon fiber, plus you get a carbon fiber shock yoke there, and all that hardware you see is titanium. Whereas on the Epic Evo and other Epic bikes, that's steel hardware and an alloy yoke. Apart from that, exactly the same frames, same moldings, same features throughout. So you've got internal storage, you've got room for 2 bottle cages, you've got headset cable routing, so it's nice and clean from the front end, but you don't need to worry about your headset maintenance. You've got ridged, ribbed chainstay protection. Got a little grommet in there to stop muck getting down between the frame and to hide the internal cable routing. You've got a really nicely machined pivot cap on that main pivot, and that main pivot has moved, so you're getting a lot more anti-squat than the previous Epic and Epic Evo bikes, which means it's got a much more positive pedaling feel. You've got stick-on belly armor, so if you're a super light racer, you can actually peel that off and get an even lighter bike. But even as it stands, these frames weigh in around 1795 grams, depending on what shock you're in there. So seriously light bikes, considering how stiff and how tough they've proved to be on the trail when I've been riding them this week. And a lot of that comes from this much larger down tube with that internal SWAT storage on there. Try and do this without knocking the bike over. There we go. You can see plenty of room for your snacks, your jacket, your tools, inner tube. And on this S-Works model, it actually comes with a clip for a dyno plug setup and a CO2 cartridge as well. So up to 1.7 litres of storage inside that down tube on an extra large frame. Although that goes down to nearer like a litre on the small and extra small. And you're getting the same 120mm of travel at the rear wheel using this flexible seat stay system. There's no rear pivot on these bikes. You've just got that really nice slim seat stay coming up there, which allows enough movement for smooth suspension travel. I wouldn't say they're crazy plush. I mean, certainly the float shock on this Evo needs a bit of time to wear in, and on this bike, I mean, the Sid Lux is pretty plush, but yeah, it's still, with that new anti-squat, it's definitely a positive pedaling feel rather than super mushy and super traction rich. You know, it's a real feisty feel underfoot, which personally I think for a lightweight bike works really, really well. The difference in geometry comes to the fact that on the Epic bikes, you get a 120mm fork up front, which gives you either a 66.4 or 65.9 degree head tube, depending on where you have that high-low chip on the rear shock. And then on the Evo bikes, you get a 130mm travel fork, which gives you either a 65.9, so that's the same angle as the Epic in slack, or 65.4 degree head angle. Obviously that changes bottom bracket height slightly as well. So you're getting 335 to 338 on the Evo, and then 328 to 333 on the Epic. And I'm sure as I've been waving the camera around, you can see there's a big difference in the nature of the spec as well. So on the Epic, you're getting a fast track front tire on a Roval Control SL front wheel, so that's a 610 gram tire with a 1320 gram wheel set. And then you've got the Renegade super fast race tire on the rear, whereas on this Evo you've got the ground control, and that's in the grid, so a much tougher trail carcass, and it's running on the standard control wheel, which to be fair is still a really light 1480 gram cross-country wheel. But both these wheels have, I mean, there's a whole video on these on my channel, but they have this distinctive flat top ridge across the top of the bead there, which Specialized say decreases the chance of a pinch puncture by about 40% over a sharper edged cross-country wheel
And in 2.5 years of World Cup racing, they haven't had a single breakage on these wheels. And then up front, you've got the Purgatory Grid T9. So that's a proper trail tyre. Plenty of grip through those knobs, and also T9 compound is their stickiest trail compound. Plus, you're getting the same control rims as the SLs, but with Industry 9 1-to-1 hubs, so a really tough trail wheel set. Plus, to match up that grip in terms of the tyres, you're getting a lot of braking power here. You've got Code Enduro brakes with SRAM's HS2 rotor. Slightly heavier, but a lot stiffer and noticeably better braking through. SRAM claim 15% better braking through them, and I'd say it's actually more than that. Modulation is excellent on these brakes, and it's been great having them on the more technical trails we've been riding on this Evo. And as you can see, you've got full width 800mm control carbon bars in the race face stem, and the little swap tool is popped into the, oh, very nicely done, into the stem there. Whereas you still get SWAT on the S-Works Epic, but it's just on the back of the bottle cage there. And in terms of braking on this bike, you're getting level ultimate brakes, one of my favourite cross-country brakes. Not super light, but very, very highly controlled, and you're getting the lightweight SRAM rotors on there. You can just see the powered by DT Swiss engraving on that Roval hub, because although the Roval hub is made by Specialized, the internals on these hubs are DT Swiss, and they use ceramic bearings for even faster rolling. And just little details as well, like this beautiful sparkly clear coat on the S-Works is also lighter than the paintwork on this Evo. So definitely on the Epic models, they're just chasing out grams wherever they can, even in terms of paint. And then in terms of group sets, this top of the range SRAM XXSL with a Quark power meter and narrow stance 168mm Q factor chain set. So it's a super light cross-country group set, right down to the carbon cage on the bottom of the jockey wheels there. And then coming through onto the Evo, you've got SRAM XO. So you've got that new windowed alloy crank. You've still got a flat top chain. It's still the latest T-type setup on the back there for that super secure shifting on the 1052 block. But you get an alloy jockey wheel cage, and although both makes are fully rebuildable, this is just a lot tougher in terms of how it'll stand up to impact, sticks in the spokes, etc. like that on the trail. So, you know, a proper trail bike choice. As you might expect, that does make a big difference to weight, but the lightness of that frame really carries through into the overall builds. So this is 12.4 kilos as it stands there with the cages on in a large, but that's still, considering this is now in the category of bike, if you think like Tallboy SB120, Pivot Mac 4, with internal storage, with 130mm travel up front, big bars, big brakes, proper trail tyres, that's seriously light. That's, you know, half a kilo to a kilo lighter on complete build, but a kilo lighter just in the frame set. And then moving across to this top of the line S-Works build, this is 10.4 kilos, so 2 kilos lighter than that Epic Evo in the Pro build, but this is having a serious amount of money thrown in it. Like I say, top spec frame, titanium bolts, everything like that, top spec SRAM race gear throw. I don't know the weight of the Epic Pro, we haven't seen that bike yet, but that will also, that will save some weight because it doesn't come with this flight attendant system. It comes with a standard triple mode manual lockout on the shock and the fork, but it's like that'll probably, you know, that offsets the fact the frame is slightly heavier, but that'll probably still be a kilo and a half lighter than the Evo model. So in terms of ride feel, what are we talking about here? As you'd expect, this Epic, sensationally quick, super light, 10.4 kilos, better pedaling kinematics in terms of positivity. Hey dog. Chilean street dogs are awesome. So proper, not racer's weapon on the surface of things, But that 120mm travel front and rear, the longer reach, this is 480mm in the tighter setting, 475mm in the slacker setting. Still super capable. Please watch the live ride reviews of both these bikes to get a real sense of how hard these bikes can be ridden. Been sending ramps, been hitting wall rides, been riding some, you know, full-on techie stuff on a purpose-built trail here in Chile to fully showcase just how hard you can go on this bike. And obviously, you know, there are some tyre limitations with standard spec, but it's the same bike as this, so with more grip, you could push it even harder. But it comes in the steeper setting, so that 66.4 degree head angle is its default setting, and it's got, you know, head down bars, these one-piece Roval SL bars, super light, but very much an aggressive, you know, elbows out, predatory prey drive kind of vibe to the whole bike. Proper hunter's bike, but still super capable on the trail. And when I started riding the bikes, I was like, oh no, they've made my Evo like, because I used to love Evo. Evo was the bike in the Specialized range as far as I was concerned. It was super light, but still surprisingly capable. If you liked the Epic Evo before, get the Epic now. It's that simple. Certainly in the specs with the manual lockout, this is going to still be a super capable, lightweight, kind of XC marathon, even trail bike. If you're not going crazy sending bike parks, it's going to be a superb lightweight all-rounder. But for people whose riding is progressed, or they just want a seriously pedal efficient, very light bike that can be pushed properly hard, then this Epic Evo really blew me away. I was kind of like I say, I was like, that's a lot of extra weight. I don't really want to cope with that. But because it pedals so efficiently, you really don't feel it. It's a lot lighter than the Tall Boy, it's lighter than the Yeti, it's lighter than the Pivot. All the bikes I've tested in this category, it undercuts those significantly while still having the practicality of like 2 bottles and internal storage. So it's equipped for distance that way. And even with that T9 tire on the front, it seriously hustles on climbs, on rolling terrain. But having that 130mm travel fork on there, especially as Specialized expect the Grip 2 damper, so it's the proper full control Enduro style damper. They haven't got with the Fit 4, which is the one with the lockout and the compression dial on top, which makes much more of a sort of cross-country fork. And I've run that on the Scott do something very similar to this with the Spark. But the difference with this is it hangs together really well, whereas that fork really hampers the Spark at lower speeds. And then by the time the fork is getting into its stride, then the back end starts to suffer. This bike hangs together super well. The only thing I would say that holds it back is tire clearance is a little bit limited at the rear. That big 2.35 is pretty much filling the back end of the bike. So I think you'd be pushing it to get a 2.4 in there with mud clearance. But this is still, in terms of category, a very light bike, very pedalable, but with those code brakes, HS2 rotors, T9 front tread, you could properly push the limits on the bike. I was riding stuff that mentally I was quite uncomfortable with. I had a real fear factor on some parts of the trail we rode on this bike. But in terms of the bike, it was totally happy, totally in control, got me down them, zero drama at all by the end of it. Yeah, super impressed with this bike, but it definitely has stepped up a category. So bear that in mind. If you've looked at the Epic range before and thought, I go Epic Evo, go Epic now. If you've looked at the Specialized range before and go, I don't know, maybe I need a stump jumper. If you really value pedaling, you value your own velocity in terms of you providing the power and getting the speed up, then Epic Evo, I would say that bike is the bike for you right now. Bit underwhelmed. I don't know if you've watched my videos on the stump jumper, to be honest, little bit underwhelmed with that bike's performance under power. Always feels like it's leaving something lacking. Part of that is the anti-squat, but I think there's an element of the frame in that. Whereas this feels like it's properly had some fire put up its ass. This thing absolutely flies under power for the category of bike that can now keep up with on descents. So there you go. I really hope this has helped as an explainer on the two bikes. As you can see, they've dramatically changed over their previous kind of where they sat in the categories in terms of the Epic Evo, at least. To be honest,
The Epic has dramatically changed, but it still ticks all those race boxes, but with just a lot more extra capability and a lot more smoothness. And like I say, I haven't really touched on flight attendant here because I think that's probably a whole new different video. Plus, I've talked about it a lot in the individual video on this Epic, and there's an individual video on the Epic Evo where you'll see me riding them out here on the trails in Matanzas, and there are proper thorough tech talk rounds on these bikes as well. So that gives you the opportunity to deep dive into the ride qualities, the ride experience of both these bikes, and the tech frame structures as well. This is meant as an overall, although I've probably waffled on and doubled up over all of those. So at this point, I need to say thank you massively to Specialized for getting us out to Chile. Massive thanks to the Specialized Chile crew for making us so welcome and to arranging everything out here. Huge thanks to the Matanzas, the host town, guys like Mateus and Jonathan, who've helped with the trail building and the setup here. It's part of the soil searching project, which is Specialized trail building globally initiative, and it's great to feel like I've just realised I've been filming this entire thing with my knee pads around my ankles upside down, haven't I? So if that's in shot and it's been upsetting, I'm sorry about that. It's been a long day. But anyway, massive thanks to those guys. Massive thanks to the community here in Matanzas in Chile. Massive thanks to my community on Patreon. Those guys subscribe every month and they make a huge difference to how sustainable this channel is and how much time I can invest in making these videos to put on YouTube. So if you really like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing on Patreon and supporting me there. Massive thanks to my sponsors, who I'll put up here. I'm lucky to have sponsors whose products I really, really believe in. I don't take sponsorship from anybody that I don't believe in. So massive thanks to those guys. And if you could support them by buying kit from them, that would be fantastic for everyone. But for now, make sure you click subscribe to get the other content on these bikes and any other competing bikes. I'm expecting a lot more bikes, certainly. It's an Olympic year. Flight Attendant is launching in probably March, April on these bikes. First World Cup is here in South America, in Brazil in April. We're going to see a lot more cross-country bikes coming out, and a lot of them are going to be a lot more capable. So it's going to be a really, really exciting category this year, and that blows my whistle really hard because that's very much my wheelhouse, is super fast cross-country bikes that are trail capable. But I think we'll be seeing some interesting developments on the lightweight trail side as well, both pedal powered and e-bike powered. But I've been waffling on again, so as well as clicking for subscription, click for notifications, give this a thumbs up, like on YouTube. I know comparison videos normally go down well, but if you can press that like button, then that means that YouTube knows it too. And tell your mates about the channel, because your word and recommendation makes a massive difference to how quickly this channel can grow and the more content I can create for you. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy Kes TV in Matanzas, Chile, talking about the new Specialized Epic Evo Pro and S-Works Epic. Two frames, but with two very different, equally awesome results.